Okay, everybody, we move on to the second part of 6-6. It's part two. And in this part, we start talking. 6-1 had to deal with just trapezoids. And 6 part 2 has to deal with our friend the kite. This would be the other end of our family tree. Okay? So I'll go over a family tree at the end. We'll have some review notes that I do that I'll have posted up for the weekend so that you're able to watch those notes. Remember, we won't have school next Monday, but we'll come back Tuesday. We'll do some review on Tuesday. We'll do some review on Wednesday. We will do some review on Thursday. So I'm hoping that in those 3 days, you get everything squared away and you will have your test on Friday. All right. So understanding that we're going to be doing a bunch of review, that we're going to be doing a bunch of problems, and you will have a bunch of work. Bunches of funches. All right, here we go. Kites. What is the definition of a kite? We always start with the definition, and it's knowing that a kite has two pair of consecutive and congruent sides. Two pair of consecutive and congruent sides. Okay? So it doesn't always have to look like a kite. I mean, this one does. I made it obvious. But the definition is that it has two pair of consecutive, that's one after the other, and congruent. All right? So that's its definition. So the next thing is understanding the rules that go with kites. Okay, so the first thing that happens in kites is that your diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, your diagonals are perpendicular in a kite. Why is that important? Because now you have right angles. When you have right angles, you now have right triangles. So finding the angle measurements, you just add them up to equal 180. If you're finding side lengths, you can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You might even have to use Pythagorean theorem, which is the same, to be able to find those measurements. All right? So you have diagonals that are perpendicular. Now, why do you have to be careful with just knowing diagonals are perpendicular? Because it sounds like a rhombus. Okay, so that's how they're related. The difference is, in a rhombus, it's a parallelogram. In a kite, I've just told you it's a quadrilateral. All right, so that's the first rule. Okay, second rule is that one diagonal is bisected. Okay, one diagonal is bisected. Okay, so you have one diagonal being bisected. That's one of the rules. Third rule is you have one pair of angles that are bisected. Now I want you to see that the one pair that is bisected, all four angles are not equal. This is bisected and this is bisected. But notice, that doesn't mean all four of them, which is similar to the other shape that we had done, the rhombus, where all four angles were bisected, but all four angles were also equal. Okay, that doesn't happen here. You have two angles, one pair of angles that are bisected, but they're not equal to each other. So you have one diagonal that's bisected. And you notice the diagonal that's being bisected is opposite of the sides that are being bisected. Okay? Rule number 4. You have one pair of opposite sides congruent. Excuse me, one pair of opposite angles congruent. One pair of opposite angles are congruent. So in a kite, you have diagonals that are perpendicular, which sounds like a rhombus, so you got to be careful. You have one diagonal that's bisected. You have one pair of angles that are bisected. And you have one pair of opposite angles that are congruent. One pair, one pair, one pair. Okay? So it's important to understand that you have one pair of angles bisected. You have one pair of angles that are equal to each other. You have one diagonal that is bisected. Notice, the key is it's about half of everything else, right? Our other rules were two pairs, two pairs, two pairs. This is one pair, one. All right. And these are the things that you will need in order to find the angle measurements. Because notice all three of these angles still add up to 180. These three angles add up to 180. Okay. These sides, these legs. Okay. If this measurement was 25, that would mean this is 12 and a half and 12 and a half. Okay, so understanding all of these rules are really, really important, forwards and backwards, in order to do the problem correctly. All right, so you have the definition of what is a kite. A kite is two pair of consecutive and congruent sides. And then the rules. Your diagonals are perpendicular. One diagonal is bisected. One pair of angles are bisected, and the other pair of angles are congruent. So the pair that is congruent are not bisected, and the pair that is bisected are not congruent. Okay, so it's like halvesies, just like here. This diagonal is bisected, the other one is not. All right, good luck on the work. Got a lot of review to do. And thank you very much.